All right. So let me know in the chat. And if you've been with me for a minute staring at the top of my head, I apologize. I was making sure to stream this into Facebook, into our Fix and Flip Foundation group. For those that are not on the Zoom, there is a link in the comments in the anticipation post from yesterday for this webinar. Click that, brings you into the Zoom. You'll be here live with us. You'll be able to ask your questions live. And speaking of which, let me make sure that the chat is open. This always tends to happen. So hosts and attendees, you should all be able to comment. So I should be able to see you guys there. Let me know if you're here live with us in the Zoom. Drop me a comment, introduce yourselves in the chat. I'll see you come across. And it looks like we're streaming into the group, which is great. And we are approaching 6 o'clock, so we can hit it. I want to be respectful of everybody's time who did show up on time. So we're going to get to it in 1 minute. Yes. All right. Yes. We are streaming. We are live. Let's see if this chat attendees can chat with everyone. Yes. All right. The chat's on. I see a handful of people already on live. Ray, thanks, man. I see that you're in. The chat's working because Ray can comment. So that means everybody can comment. So drop your comments. Let me know you're here. Let me know who you are, intro, where you're from, what you hope to get out of tonight. Remember, we're going to unpack a $250,000 deal. This deal is very indicative of the types of deals that we do, the types of deals that we teach, right? Add levels, additions, new construction type deals where you force appreciation, bake in really big spreads. That's why we can do deals like this and do multiple six figures on a single deal. That takes a lot of cosmetic rehabs. For those of you that do cosmetic rehabs, you'll know that. And you'll also know that's why we don't do them. So yeah, everybody's rolling in. This is great. And keep the comments coming. Those of you that are on Facebook, again, I often say this, right? If you found your way there rather than here, right? We stream it there for posterity, but if you're there, you might as well click the link and come here, right? And be in the room with us live if you're watching this live. So affording you the ability to engage in the chat, asking questions in real time. And when I do pause, I'll be able to interact and answer those questions as we go. And for those that are watching this later, you'll also get a benefit from the comments section because my team will be in there as well. And so what we're sharing here, we'll put there at a later date. But again, if you want to kind of direct the dialogue, jump in, get in on the Zoom. The link is in the earlier anticipation post for today's live. I dropped it in the comments as we went live just a minute or two ago. Hey, what's up, Angela from Texas? Ray is from Scranton. Roland from Grapevine, Texas. It's good to see you guys. Excuse me, we got a lot of Texas representation already. We've got a couple of folks in our accelerator program that are Texas-based as well. So cool to see Texas. Oh man, they're coming in hot. Chris from Connecticut. Jeannie from Jersey, Orlando, Ant from New Jersey. Awesome, guys. It's cool. All right, let's hit it. For those that are here on time, like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. I'm going to jump into a screen share. Bear with me. I'll make sure I pull the chat up as well, and encouraging you to engage. A lot of what I have today is visual, so I suspect we're going to get a lot of questions as we go through a lot of this stuff. Drop them in the chat. So long as they're relevant to what I'm talking about and they're not further down in the deck, I'll answer them as we go, right? So I'll keep engaging with you guys. If the question is answered later on, if there's a slide in the deck that I'll get to it, then I'll just make note of that and you'll know that you'll get your answer as we continue to progress through this. So let's jump into the screen share. And you all ought to be seeing a Canva deck. Let me also make sure I pull the chat up as well so I could stay in tune with you guys here in the chat. All right, awesome. So let's jump in. First and foremost, we are going to unpack this deal. We'll go as deep as we can go on what I try to keep to a 30-ish, 35-ish minute with like Q&A, 40 max call, right? So if you get to when we get to a place where like we would ordinarily go deeper, time doesn't allow, I'm going to make note of that and encouraging you to go find those resources because they exist inside of the group, right? And I'll make reference to those when we get to them. As far as the anatomy of a 250K deal, let's unpack what one of these looks like. This deal is very indicative of the type of deals we do, the type of deals we teach you guys how to do and encourage you guys to do. So we're going to quickly talk about where the deal came from, how we source deals like this, and how we encourage you to do the same, how we raise capital for this deal, and how we encourage you to do the same there as well. And ultimately, how to manage these projects from a super high level. This is an example of where it could get a lot more granular, and we're just not going to have the time to go that deep, but I'll at least be able to paint the picture at a high level for you. And so let's open with like, what's the deal, right? Like, what deal are we even talking about? Here it is, visual representation of what it looked like and what it ultimately became. These before and afters, these side by sides usually do a really good job of illustrating what we can create, right? We do the same thing with a rendering, which you'll see a little bit further down the line. Here we have the finished product. So I'm showing you the finished product. You see that base cape with the 2-car garage. And then you see this new colonial, right? With the roof ripped off, the second floor built out, and up over the garage was an awesome master suite, right? That's where we often put the master suite over the 2-car garage because you got that double wide garage, typically 400 or so square feet that you get to then give above to the master. So that's what you're looking at here. A 3-bed, 1.5 bath, 1,800 square foot, already like a big expanded cape, turned into a 5-bed, 4-bath, 4,000 foot colonial. And so let's talk more about how we sourced it. And I want to lean into organic. You've heard me talk about organic versus paid marketing efforts, and we advocate for organic primarily, and then layering on paid. Organic, why? Well, because organic is solely time dependent. So if you can commit time to organic marketing efforts, you're going to reap the benefits, whereas a paid marketing effort is going to cost dollars, clearly. So you put your time in, and I'll show you how we do it, and then ultimately what generated this lead. This is a little bit of foreshadowing. What you see there, the little caveman, we'll get to that in a minute. And if you've been on these calls before, you already know anything worth doing is worth documenting. That's I preach that from the mountaintops, because that's how this deal got done, and that's how a lot of our deals get done. So what does that mean? It means be constantly telling folks who you are, what you do, what you buy, right? Be seen, be heard, be at networking events, be shaking hands, be getting on Zooms if they're doing Zooms. Personally, I prefer to be in person now that those events are back, but you can be engaging via Zoom as well, wherever there's an opportunity in the real world, right? Engage there. If you get an opportunity to speak, most people are sheepish, right? When the time comes for them to do their round robin introductions at a networking event, they don't want to tell folks who they are. But the idea is they don't know if you don't tell them. So tell them who you are, tell them what you buy, right? Even if you're a newer investor, you introduce yourself as a newer investor who's interested in, right? You can be specific about the things that you want to buy. If you're already buying those things, then clearly you tell them what you're a buyer of, your buy box. We've done a couple of trainings on that here. Have your buy box dialed in, know what you're a buyer of, tell them that. And then if you can leverage other people's audiences in any capacity, right? If you've got a friend who's got a podcast or hosts some sort of a small get together, it doesn't necessarily have to be specific to real estate. If you're going to raise money, there's networking events where you can get around folks that have capital that they could ultimately deploy in your project. So maybe start reaching out to people who have audiences, who have networks, right? This is a very relational business. So that's why we advocate for organic marketing efforts, things like you're looking at here, networking, RIAs, getting in front of audiences, just telling people who you are essentially and what you're a buyer of. And then being consistent and being omnipresent and being everywhere. That is a testament to, like, if you're doing stuff, are you like building in private or are you building in public, right? If you're out there doing deals, does anybody know you're doing deals? If they don't, they oughta, right? You ought to be publishing, ought to be updating photos, right? People love to visually follow along on the journey. So be omnipresent, be everywhere, be active in the local Facebook groups, be updating people on what you're a buyer of, or if you're actually doing the projects, what are you doing right now, right? Keep people abreast of what's going on in your world. Like I said, real estate investment networking events, that's where this deal ultimately came from. And I'll tell that story in a second. Relationships with agents and brokers. A lot of brokers have their preferred investor partner. But you might not necessarily be their first call, but there's nothing that says you can't be their second or third call, right? Even people like us have capacity, right? There's going to be times where we don't necessarily need to buy more deals and more deals might find us. That agent, broker, wholesaler, who's ever bringing that opportunity might call us first, but they might call you second, right? If we pass on an opportunity, and vice versa. That's worked in our favor as well. So encouraging you to do that, build our relationships clearly with attorneys, title companies, any professional service providers, accountants have referred us leads, right? And then social events, like be always and ever advocating, telling people what you do, what you buy, and it might not necessarily be the person that you're telling in that moment. It might not be the person working out alongside you at the gym that you're constantly telling about what it is that you do. But 2 weeks from now, that person, he or she might be at a barbecue and might overhear that someone in the room is looking to sell their house, and that's where the opportunity comes, right? They'll mention, hey, you know what? There's a guy at my gym. He buys houses. You mentioned that it hasn't been updated in 50 years, 60 years. He buys those kinds of houses. So, and here's how it worked out for us on this deal. To be specific about this deal, we were active in our local RIA. We were buyers of this type of house. We'll go back, I'll show you. We clearly buy this type of house. We made it very clear that we're buyers of dated capes, ranches, and bungalows in the better half of Union County, right? That we could add value, that we could force appreciation by adding square footage to. And so when this Homevestors, that's this caveman that I alluded to earlier, when a Homevestors franchisee had this wholesale locked up, they thought of us first, right? That's a direct result of us being active, being present, telling folks what we do, being buyers of this specific type of asset, having our buy box dialed in. And so ultimately we bought it from the wholesaler. And to go one step further, one step removed, the wholesaler, the Homevestors caveman, that's why that's there. They are advocates for the paid model. So that wholesaler has overhead, has marketing costs, pays for his share of the billboards that you see, right? The inbound phone calls that come off the mailers, the pay per click that they run online. So that investor, wholesaler, was paying into a pot, and that was getting him a specific share of the leads. And those leads, one of which was this house. He converted on that lead, got the seller to lock in at a price, and then assigned us the contract. So that's how that deal happened. But again, it came to us as a direct result of our organic marketing efforts. So that's the first piece of this, is the deal sourcing. And so there we go. We'll talk a bit more about deal sourcing as we go deeper, but just organic and paid, two separate things. This one had an element of both. The wholesaler paid to get this lead, and then organically, well, we paid for it too in the form of an assignment fee, but that lead found us as a direct result of our organic reach. All right. So I don't want to beat that horse to death, but if you've been on these calls, you know how I feel about being your own mouthpiece, right? If you don't tell them, they won't know. So get out there and tell them. And we'll just keep going. Any questions on deal sourcing specific to this deal, drop them in the chat as I kind of continue to unpack the funding piece, like how we funded the deal next. And I can always jump back and answer those questions as we keep going. So here we go. On private and hard money combined, got this deal done. It's how we get all our deals done. We advocate for doing everything with OPM. So you've heard us, if you've been on these calls before, you've heard us say gap fund with private and then get the balance from the hard money lender. And that's exactly what happened here. So let me just unpack that a little bit further. So what you're looking at is our private money management blueprint, right? And so this is intense. This is like a visual representation of our entire system for private money, everything from sourcing private money and getting those lenders to presenting the offer, because that's what this is. An opportunity to lend to us is an offer. How do you present the offer? And then how do you maintain communication with that lender so that way they're always kept in the loop and ultimately comfortable to lend to you in the future? That's a big piece, right? So again, we're going to be limited on time. We're not going to be able to unpack the acquisition and like sourcing private money with the private money lenders and how we go about doing that. And we're not going to be able to unpack like a solid communication cadence and system, right? These are these two elements themselves are 6 or 7 modules in our course. And so we're not going to get to that, but we're going to focus on the opportunity and how it specifically applies to this project. All right. So just painting that picture here. And if you haven't seen this, and if you're seeing this for the first time and you want access to this, comment PML in the chat and my team will get this over to you after the webinar. This has been made available inside of the group. In fact, I think early this week, we were sharing this inside of the group. So this is here for you as a reference. So let's keep going. We're going to jump into the offer piece and how you offer the opportunity to your private money lenders in a way that makes it appealing to them. And that's exactly what we had to do here, right? We had to package this deal. We had to prepare an investment summary. Here's a version of one that you're looking at. Put this in front of a private money lender, raise the gap monies, our skin in the game, our down payment, right? And we'll talk a little bit more about what that number looks like as we go further, but just understand that you're raising that money, right? We're trying to do the entire deal with OPM. Uncle Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki, only lazy people use their own money. That's a Kiyosaki quote. So I'm going to really tout that one. So if you can get a deal done with OPM, it's your right, duty, and obligation to do so. Save your money for overhead, for marketing, for things that you can't raise for, and raise for deals, always. So again, we needed to raise some private money on the front end here, and we'll talk specifically about how much as we go a little bit deeper. And then behind the private money, the down payment comes the hard money, 10% of the purchase price, private money, and the other 90% of purchase and 100% of construction in the form of hard money. And so also on the investment summary sheet in the center, you see those numbers squared off in red. Just keep a mental note of that. I'll show you why I highlighted those figures in particular. This was the second rendition of the investment summary that we had to prepare after the appraisal. So I'll come back on that. And so before we get to the appraisal, we also want to support our projected after repair value, our ARV, by doing a thorough comp, right? We went and comped. This is what our MLS looks like locally. Yours might look different, but we're going to get the area stats, and then we're going to find 5. In this case, you see the 5 down below. We find 5 comps that justify our 1.2 ARV. And so we did just that. And then comes the appraisal, right? Here's where you paint a picture, craft the investment summary, do your comps to justify your after repair value. And then the appraiser comes in, the hard money lender's third party partner comes in and says, I don't think so, right? And that's often the case, right? They're paid to be more conservative, and that's what they do to protect the lender. And so here's what that looked like for us. On the left, an email that we crafted to send to the appraiser to give them more insight and more detail on what we were going to create and why we were confident we were going to go for that 1.2 ARV, right? What are we going to do in the house in the way of finishes? What kind of support do we have for that after repair value, that 1.2? Even by floor, right? This is the level of detail we were willing to provide to get the appraiser comfortable with our projected after repair value. And you can see on the right where they wound up, right? As we want 1.2, we're confident we can get to 1.2. We've got the comps to justify it. We've got all these notes here in this email, but at the end of the day, the appraiser comes in and says 995 is the best they'll do, right? And so that changes some things with regard to lending. here's what a term sheet on this deal looked like. Again, I'm showing you a dated deal with all real numbers. This is one of those deals that we happen to have everything set up and saved for. So you're seeing everything the way it was presented to us in real time with all the dates, right? And so first, here's what our cash to close is, right? There's that 103. That number winds up being slightly higher come closing time. You'll see that on the HUD. There are additional fees, right? Any additional closing costs. So by the time we were done, that number was more like 120. And then there's going to be a loan for 582. You're seeing that. And here are the terms, right? These are the terms we were getting back then, 12% and 3 points. And if those of you that are borrowing hard money right now likely aren't paying those kinds of terms. Maybe you are, but just know that these deals make sense. We make money doing these deals with those terms, right? And have for many years. Our terms are a lot better than that now. But when people say hard money's too expensive, 3 and 12, that's crazy. Well, you know, it's crazy not doing a deal. Not doing a $200,000+ net profit deal because you're hung up on 3 and 12. Like, we gladly paid our lender $100,000 in interest and fees on this deal to go make the 200K plus. So I want to drive that point home for those of you that are, and so I know there's a lot of lenders in the Fix and Flip Foundation group. I don't know how many of them made it onto this call, but if you're here, I'm curious how this sits with you. Drop a comment. Let me know, for those that have that perspective on hard money, like, is hard money too expensive, or is that reframe like hard money is not too expensive? What's more expensive is not doing the deal, right? So drop a comment in the chat there. I'd like to see how that like sits with a lot of you. If you're on live, drop a comment in the chat. Hamilton, question regarding the deal sourcing. Can beginner investors help source deals? Yeah, in fact, once you get clarity around what, like, we're buyers of or what you're a buyer of, the one thing that you have more of than the more seasoned investors is time, right? The more seasoned investors are going to be caught up in doing other things. And so you have, like we said, the currency for organic marketing is time. The currency for paid marketing is dollars. And so if you've got more time than dollars, like, go work organic, right? If you have more dollars than time, you pay for leads. That's how it works. So hopefully that's helpful, Hamilton. Yeah, great comment, right? Turo, interest is the price of doing business, right? I'm spot on, man. That's absolutely right? You don't want to pay egregious rates, right? There's loan shark type rates. We're not saying pay 20% on your money. There's opportunities to pay 2 and 10, 3 and 11, 3, 12, right? And we paid that here and made the deal work. So great. You have to pay to use OPM if the rates are as high. Right. Okay. Good comment. Yeah. Marcia, if you have to make the math make sense. So that's a good point. Like, if you're going to do the entire deal with OPM and you borrow purchase, construction, everything, and you model it out at a blended rate of 10% and the deal doesn't make sense and the deal's too thin, then it's just that. It's a thin deal. It's not a good deal. It's not a deal worth doing anyway. Some would argue that if I put my own money in the deal, then the deal makes sense. But the problem with that line of thought is that they're not valuing their money, because they could easily lend their money to me at 10%. So you have to assume that you're going to pay yourself 10%. That's how you have to reframe it. And I think that's a helpful way of looking at cost of capital when you're going to self-fund the purchase, if you choose to do that. So yeah, that's a great point, Marcia. Okay, let me keep going. We've got a couple of comments that I'm going to get to with regard to ROI and on this particular deal. So bear with me. We'll keep rolling and we'll get to that. So project management, again, you know, this is one of those things where I knew we were going to be challenged on time. We're not going to unpack the entire trade tracker, the milestone templates, like using and leveraging Slack, the scorecard to run projects, right? Like, that's its own webinar. And in fact, it has been its own webinar. So if you guys want to go deeper on that, feel free to like drop a comment in the chat, and Evan is on live now, right? He'll connect with you and we could talk about those trainings, and he can link you through to those trainings because we have done those on these calls in the past, and they live in the Facebook group, by the way. So, so here we go. Here's this deal, and here is where we forced appreciation by doing a rear addition, right? That's what you're looking at here. You're looking at the architecturals. We're going to talk about managing this project at a high level and where we came in and forced appreciation and created that $250,000 worth of value that we were able to extract at the end. All right, well, how did you do that? Well, you already saw the first image where we added this, right? This second floor. Here it is. Like, this is what it looks like from the back. I didn't want to mess with the elevation, like from a visual standpoint, just so you guys could see. Here's all that square footage added across the back and this bonus square footage here, right? This is what ultimately pushed us over the top. And I'll show you where this square footage right here went when we show you the interior. Again, back to the rendering, which you saw the finished product. It looks like this rendering, just in a different, color. We adorned the facade with some stone, but we got the architecturals and converted them to a 3D rendering. So we're starting to paint a picture, right? This is the whole idea here. The 3D floor plans, the 2D floor plans, starting to make this like thing come to life long before we've ever done anything to it. All of what you're looking at exists long before any of this exists, right? Like, we're still working with the base, that subject property, but we're already starting to cast a vision for our lenders, cast a vision for our potential buyers. And again, here's that number, right? The appraiser didn't think so, but we were confident based on our comps that we were going to get that 1-2 number, right? And so we created signage. Our agent was pre-selling at that 1-2. That's the number we were out there marketing this at. So again, another opportunity for you to always be branding. We buy houses. Here's who we are. We're not just 123 Main Street LLC house flipper, right? That's not who we are. We're a home builder. We're an investor. We're a developer. Start thinking about branding, positioning. Again, that's a call for another day. And here's this thing ultimately finished, right? Here's the progression. So this should help really visually, like, help you wrap your head around what we ultimately created there, how we got from what we started with to what we ended with. And here's where the difference was made, right? Here's this large addition to the rear that afforded us the ability to push this kitchen out and make this what I think was a 480 square foot kitchen, something like that. It wound up being a monster kitchen, right? And the cabinets you're looking at, and the 2 islands, and the butler's pantry, right? All of this is a copy and paste from one of the comps, the $1.2 million comp, 1.275 that we had in the comps report a couple of slides back. That is the same kitchen designer that did that, right? We said, well, if we want to replicate that product, where it most matters is in the kitchen and in the master bath. Let's go and just copy and paste what they did there. It worked, right? They got that 1.275. We want to get the 1.2. Let's just go and replicate the kitchen, right? And here we were fortunate. We were able to get 2 islands because we had more square footage in our kitchen, thanks to that addition that I mentioned earlier. Right, here's that addition to the back on the first floor. This is where you see that bump out and that like real value, that value was created there. And here's what it looked like. Here's just some staged photos, finished photos of the home. And here's the HUD, right? Here's what everybody wants to know. How did the numbers shake out? We paid $460. I think the wholesaler had it at $410 and did $50K on it on the assignment. Here was our cash to close. Remember, it was that 103 number plus associated closing costs. So it wound up at 120, 126, I think this says. Here's what we sold at: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.89, right? A fun, cheeky number, but that 1.2 ARV that we suggested we would get, we got that and better, right? So here's validation, right? This was the deal we knew we would do. The lender and the appraiser, right? The lender had confidence. The appraiser came in, kind of cut us down. That happens. And then you're obligated to go get a little bit more of the construction monies elsewhere. We were fortunate to be able to raise those at the end because by then the project's nearly done, right? And so that ARV is looking a lot stronger by then. And here was our Gross. And so, of course, you know that from this, you're deducting your cash to close, you're deducting the gap monies that you had to raise, that we had to raise to finish the project out. So this ultimately shakes out at more like a $223,000 net rehab, not this 441. So just to be clear, right, when you see that number, not all that money comes back. And so before I keep going, let me field some questions. Patrick, how long was the construction process? Close to close on this, I want to say was 8 months, but the HUD will tell us. I could be wrong. There's dates on these HUDs somewhere. It might have been longer than that. But anyway, the settlement date 6/6 looks like 12 months if I'm reading this right. So longer than I thought, but still good for a year's work. Check messages. Okay, sure. So guys, in the chat, any links that you're not seeing here, you're on Zoom. If you're in Facebook, you might not be seeing the links that we're seeing in the chat. So just be mindful that we're having these conversations because this is in a Zoom webinar and you might be watching this back in Facebook. So just want to clarify that for those that are confused. Drop any other questions regarding sourcing the deal, funding the deal, and then construction management. Like I said, at a high level, this is about as deep as we can get. We just don't have the time to go, too much deeper. We're already pushing 6:30. So, and I want to actually get to one piece of housekeeping. So before I jump out of this chat, there's our first in-person event since pre-COVID is at the end of this month, January 27th and 28th. We're hosting here in New Jersey, in Morristown, New Jersey in particular. Those of you that are local, and we've got folks flying in, frankly. So folks coming from Cleveland, from parts of Texas, coming from Pennsylvania, right? So we got folks coming in from all different parts of the country to be here for this. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a full day of education, a workshop, nuts and bolts, tactical, unpacking, find, fund, fix, flip, bringing in speakers to talk on things, subject matter experts on things that they are far more well-versed in than I am. I'm going to drive the dialogue around sourcing. I'm going to drive the dialogue around systems, processes. We're going to have some partners speaking on the art of the pre-sale. My project manager, my former project manager, is going to be in the house speaking on how managing multiple projects in parallel, how he brings projects in on time, on budget, using the systems that we created together. We'll speak on design, and we're going to talk about money. Our preferred private and hard money lenders will both be in the room, will both be speaking. So encouraging you, and I'll drop this. You know what, Evan, if you can, drop the link in the chat for those that want to go right to the event page and get the rest of the information. What I'm showing you here is the event program for the 2 days, and then the speakers, which I've been sharing the speakers in the Facebook group this week, like one by one, right? Dropping the speaker series, and here you're getting to see them all. And then that's just the first day. The second half day is going to be spent together touring projects like the one you just saw. We're going to be actually visiting projects in varying stages of completion, showing you how the rubber meets the road, right? We're going to go tactical, nuts and bolts. We're going to be, in the workshop. And then the next day we're going to be in the field, right? So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be a great day, and encouraging those of you that haven't yet checked out the page, go check out the page, lock up your seat. We have 30 people coming out of 35 seats. So again, just I don't want to I don't want to pitch too much. I want to be respectful of your time. You're not here for that, but again, encouraging you to do that if you're interested. In the meantime, I'll leave you with a question, then I'll field your questions. Are there any deals like the one you just saw hiding in plain sight, right? That's the idea. My goal with all of these trainings is to help you increase your vision, right? If you're conditioned to only and ever see cosmetic rehabs, well, that's what you'll always and ever see. But once you start to see, hey, this is what an add-a level looks like, this is what a new construction deal looks like the blinders are off, and then you can identify those types of deals in your market. And so encouraging you to do that. And especially if you need help qualifying the market, right? Like that's what we do inside of our accelerator. And so if you're interested in that, comment in the chat and we'll get you over a link for that where we can go a little bit deeper on qualifying your market for this specific at a level type strategy. So let me hop out of my screen share and see if we've got any other questions that I didn't get to. I see the team is active in the chat. It looks like they've been answering a lot of the questions as we've been going. If there's any in here that I can answer, let me take a quick look. We've still got a couple of minutes. I'd be happy to answer. But I'm dehydrated because I've been talking so much. Hopefully bringing you guys a lot of value in doing so. For those that are on, Anthony, great question. So we've been unpacking this question. Anthony's question is what are materials currently costing, right? So the deal you looked at cost $325, something $350 in that range to do that addition and renovation, right? That is not the case today. We're doing smaller ADA levels for that money now. That was a larger ADA level that would cost significantly more today. And that's just a product of inflation. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a product of COVID, right? Like what we've found is that a lot of what happened during COVID times, materials, the supply chain breaking and just like material availability being a challenge, driving prices way up. We've seen a lot of that fall off. What we haven't seen fall off is labor, right? Like good luck getting your framer who was working for 800 pre-COVID that you had to bump to 1,000 because everything else cost more to come back down to 800 now, right? Like that's just not going to happen. I'm just using, round numbers to paint that picture for you. Like it's just not going to happen. So that labor number is never coming down. Just know that, right? Like that's, so to Anthony, to answer your question, construction's costing more, clearly. Materials cost a little bit more. They don't cost like those crazy numbers we were seeing like in COVID times. What we're doing as a collective inside of the accelerator, especially, is we're aggregating everybody's bids. We're saying, hey, what are you getting bid for siding right now? What are you getting bid to frame a 3,000 foot house right now? What are you getting bid to plumb and wire 2,800 feet right now? And we're aggregating all that data. So we're getting real numbers in real time. What are 25 Anderson 200s costing for the new deal, for the new project you're working on? Oh, well, 25 windows came in at 14,000, 12,000, 18,000, right? So we're getting a lot of data points, and that's the best way to dial in construction, right? There's a lot of resources. We encourage you to use them. Jay Scott's book on estimating rehab costs, a great reference tool. Flipper Force, which we advocate for in this group and we're partners with, encouraging you to use that software. But the rubber meets the road where other investors are spending, like what their proposals, what their bids are coming in at, and what they're spending to do the work that you need to do in real time. Like there isn't anything truer than what someone else paid last week to do what you need to do this week, right? Like that's the best data you're going to get. So of course, that's how we do it in our collective, and encouraging you to do that, whether it's as a part of our collective where all this data is being shared, or a group of your own, like a group of your own curation, right? Get a handful of investors together in your market and just start knowledge sharing, right? That's and that's incumbent on you to drive that effort, right? If that's for you in your market. Not picking on you, Anthony, you just asked a great question and it's so relevant because we're talking about this in our group right now. So you guys will be, so I hope that's helpful. Can we show how to source deals using MLS or off market? In fact, funny you should ask, Patrick, we do off market deal sourcing. A lot of the ways we talk about on these calls, everything works if you work it. Let me say that, right? So when I say organic and I say go and work your local RIA, what I'm saying is go and attend the monthly meetups, tell people who you are, tell them what you buy, and like add that to your ongoing campaigns. That's something that you're going to consistently do. And then like that doesn't cost you anything except like visiting the local RIA every third Thursday, right? Whatever that is. Then layer on something else. Then say, okay, what I'm also going to do is drive for dollars, and I'm going to use Deal Machine, and I'm going to send postcards. And so there's your second campaign. That's another marketing effort. That's another campaign. You're layering campaigns. That's how you're going to source off market. It's because when one thing's hitting, another isn't. And when everything's hitting at once, great. There's going to be times where only one thing's hitting, but you have to have a lot of those spokes, right? The hub and the spokes. So I hope that visual is helpful, right? My fingers are the spokes. And those are your different marketing efforts. Those are your different campaigns. And then with regard to sourcing deals on MLS, that is what that requires is a really dialed in eye. It's just knowing what you're a buyer of. I've shown you what a dated Cape ranch bungalow, 1950s, 1960s, hasn't been updated, right? Like once you start to know that that's what you're a buyer of, that's what it looks like, then you can really mine the MLS for deals. And there's plenty to be had on MLS. There's deals hiding in plain sight on the MLS right now. We were challenged a couple of weeks back to find a deal on MLS. We did a 2-hour screen share with the collective and found a deal. Like that's it. It's just, it's there to be found. They're hiding in plain sight. It's incumbent on you to go mine the MLS and know what you're looking for and then actively pursue those opportunities there. So I hope that's helpful, Patrick. Again, those are like 2 1 or 2 hour calls each, right? But hopefully that's helpful. Marty, how do you keep permit approval times down? We actually did a training on that called proper project production, right? The production phase of the project, the front end, where you do all of that front end work to make sure that you submit and get your approvals as quickly as possible. And what it essentially is your team of professionals. Is the short answer to that question. That training is, I think it was a 45-minute training. So you can find that in the group. And if not, someone from my team can link you to it. But it's about partnering with the right professionals, the right engineer, the right architect, the right attorneys, right? Making sure that like the right people are in your corner and that you're submitting a structured or organized and complete package to the town. Most people, their submissions get kicked and they don't get approvals because they submit a mess. And so that's just the unfortunate reality. But again, that training is super helpful. So I would say, Marty, that's where I would suggest you go and check out. What other questions? Can you show us what's the difference between the event at the end of the month and the and our mentorship? Yeah, so the event at the end of the month is part of the mentorship for those that are active members in our accelerator. They'll be attending this event. So those of you that are attending as guests and are purchasing tickets outside of the accelerator program, you'll get to be with our accelerator and our real estate riches mastermind guys and girls those 2 days. So talking about like you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? You've likely all heard that. You want to be an investor, get around investors. You'll be in a room with active investors, accelerator members, real estate riches mastermind folks, like we'll all be together. And then anyone that's choosing to attend from Fix and Flip Foundation, there's a few of you on the chat now. I recognize a bunch of your names, and we've had a pre-event coaching call with some of you already. So I hope to see as many of you as possible at the event. But just to answer the question, it's actually you'll be in the room with those folks, and they're 2 separate things. But I hope that's helpful. Again, someone on my team can help unpack that on a call if you want to go a little bit deeper. Patrick. All right, guys. We pushed past 6:40. My goal is always to try and get us out of here at 6:40. I want to be respectful of your time, leave you time to get back to dinner and time with your families. I hope this was helpful. Unpacking deals like this. Just if you come away from this training with anything, it's that like this is incumbent of the type of deals we do, encouraging you to take the blinders off, identify these deals in your market. They're likely hiding in plain sight. They're in your backyard. If you need help finding them, let us know. Happy to go deeper on this with you guys. And have a great night. Thanks for being on, and I'll see you in the group, and hopefully I'll see you at the end of the month at the event. All right, guys, take care.